of America, Condoleezza Rice says, is slavery. Institutionalized depersonalization. That's not the slavery. That's not the context that Paul is using in this text this morning. Contextually, in the ancient times, slaves were not slaves like we looked at slavery from 1619 until the emancipation and beyond Reconstruction and Jim Crow and segregation. That's not the slavery Paul is talking about, because in the ancient world, slaves were regarded more or less as a social class. They conquered other nations, and they brought other peoples to their lands and enslaved them as a conquered people. And then there were persons who were in debt and sold themselves into indentured servitude until they could work off their debt and get out of slavery. The context for us today is more or less employee, be obedient to your employer. It's an employee-employer, or it's one in authority over somebody, and the person who is under authority submitting to the one who is in authority, and that drives us to serve with purpose. Because what we do in the kingdom of God is not to please men. We are not looking for other people's approval. So whether or not you are a plumber or a preacher, a coal miner or missionary, a truck driver or a school teacher, whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. Because everybody born in this world is born with a purpose. God has given each of us a gift, and many of us have several gifts. But whatever gift God has given you, use that gift not as men pleasers, not with eye service, but do it as if you are doing it to the Lord. Slavery. Slavery in that day was a social class unrelated to racism, unrelated to injustice or exploitation. That was, in that day as in this day, human trafficking. People were being exploited and being misused, and masters were being unkind to persons who were their slaves, brought to them as spoils of war. And then people who lived as domestic servants in their homes, many of them were being mistreated and not paid. And Paul is saying that system of exploitation, that system of injustice should not be so among the people of God. As it relates to the church, there is no responsibility, no job, no stewardship that's less than any other responsibility. All of us can't be preachers. All of us can't be song leaders. All of us are not leaders in a Sunday school class, or all of us are not leaders on the ushers or greeters ministry. Nothing is wrong with following leadership, because all of us have to come under leadership if we would ever be in leadership. You can't lead anybody if you got a hard time following anybody. So what I want to get over to us this morning, brothers and sisters, is that we ought to commit all our relationships to God in discipline. Discipline. Commit all of our relationships to God in discipline. Many of us here this morning, I can tell just by looking at you and just by being around you these 33 years, I know how many of us are, because the way I see you publicly, you are that privately 2.0. By that I mean all your white towels are with the white towels. All your colored towels are with the colored towels. All your forks are right here, the spoons right here. Your shoes, you can go blindfolded in your closet and pick out the pair of shoes you want, because everything in your life is disciplined and structured and organized. That's the way you live your life. You are regimented. You get up at a certain time in the morning and you go through the same routine. Drink your coffee, watch television, get ready for work. All your work clothes are out before you even get ready to go to work. Sunday morning, you're just like my grandmother. Your stockings, your girdle, your shoes, your hat, your gloves, everything is right where they need to be, because you have structured your life in such a way that you are that regimented and disciplined, except when it comes to prayer, when it comes to Bible study, when it comes to evangelizing and winning the lost. Come on, talk back to me if you can. We are uniformed, but not in uniformity. Because you have on a uniform does not mean you are in unison. Because we can be together in one place and not be on the same accord. But when we are working in unison for the glory of God, we don't care who the president is. We don't care if we never get a chance to get to the microphone. I just want to do my part in the kingdom of God, because when it's all over, I just want to hear God say, servant, well done. People may not ever see what you do. They may not ever know the people that you've helped. And you may have been a blessing to somebody that you don't even know you blessed. God is just using your life and your story and your testimony and your walk and your relationship with Him to show others that serving God pays off, not just after a while. I wish I had somebody to help me. Serving God pays off right now, and the dividends are a good night's sleep. I wish I had a witness. The dividends are, I don't hate nobody. I don't have anything against anybody. I love everybody. I can shake your hand with a straight face. I haven't been in your business. I haven't been in your affairs. I just know that when it comes to relationships at church, we kind of put it in a hierarchy of this and that and that and this, so that the pastor is way up here and the members are way down here, when the only reason I'm up in this pulpit is because it's my job to pull people out of a pit. I would be just as much preacher on the floor standing right there preaching, but I want to be up here, and I'm up here behind a pulpit of wood for everybody to hear what thus says the Lord. I want you to visibly see me and hear me, because the word is proclamation. And the proclamation of the gospel is that Jesus Christ is mighty to save, and you are hearing the gospel from a sinner who has been saved. And anybody here serving God is serving God because God pulled you out of a pit. Come on, help me preach a minute. Picked you up, turned you around, place your feet on solid ground. And so Paul says, I beat my body that I might make it my slave. He said, know ye not that all run in a race and not all receive the prize? He said, I bring my body under subjection. I make my body my slave. I do not let my body dictate my desires. I dictate to my body because my body is my slave. And in order to make it my slave, I have to constantly bring my body under subjection. For my greatest fear, Paul says, is when I have preached to others, I myself should become castaway. I myself would be disqualified for the prize I help other people gain. Usher, you don't want to open the door for somebody to go in a place and you're not spiritual. You're not connected to God. You're not speaking to your brothers and sisters. You're fighting and jockeying for position and prestige, and you're doing it with eye service. Eye service means you're doing it because you want to be seen. I'm grateful to God this morning that there is hardly a week or month that goes by that I do not get an email or a phone call from people who have visited this church from across the country who compliment the greeters and the ushers at this church. Not 1 week or month goes by without people complimenting your warm smile. As soon as they drive in on the parking lot, the young men who drive the carts outside are friendly and accommodating. That ministry is needed. It's a long walk from these parking lots to get into the sanctuary. And I used to fuss at people for getting to church late, but now it takes 25 minutes to find a parking space. So I ain't mad with nobody. Get here when you can. But the ushers and the greeters go out of their way to be warm and accommodating. And I want to admonish you, I want to exhort you this morning, don't have a smile on your face and a frown in your heart. Don't do it if you don't mean it. That's all I'm trying to say. Don't put your hands on it if you're not going to put your heart in it. Here's how you get that right. Isaiah said it was in the year that King Uzziah died. I saw also the Lord high and lifted up. His train filled the temple. The house was filled with smoke. And the doorposts moved in the presence of the living God. Angels with wings covering their face and covering their feet, and with wings they did fly. And Isaiah said, when I saw that vision, I said, woe is me, for I am undone. I'm a man of unclean lips. I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. And then he said, an angel with some tongs took some live coal from off the altar and touched my lips and said, your iniquity has been purged and your sin has been forgiven. Isaiah said, then I heard God say, whom shall I send? Have I got a witness? Who will go for us? Then said I, here am I. Send me. God clean your heart. Let God wash your mind. Let God sanctify your spirit. Then you can open the door with a glad heart. Then you can say like the psalmist, I'd rather be a doorkeeper. I wish I had a Bible reader. In the house of God than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. Every relationship committed to the Lord. And then when we move on in that passage, Paul admonishes, treat those under our authority with kindness. Treat those under our authority with kindness. Commit relationships to the Lord, that's discipline. But treat those who are under your authority with kindness, that's your duty. If you don't love people, you ain't got no business working with people. And listen, working at the church, you work with people. Difficult people. Mean people. Stubborn people. You tell them to sit here, and they go sit over there. Now, unless you're called to do this, you say, hey, heifer, I told you to sit over here. Unless you're a Christian usher, you start taking your earrings off. You have to be called to do this. You have to have a heart for young people if you're going to work with the youth. If you don't like children, youth ministry is not your gig. Come on, help me preach if you can. If you don't like standing up showing people where to sit and they don't sit where you tell them to sit, ushering may not be your ministry. Your fuse is too short. Because if I tell you to sit somewhere, you better sit where I punch you in your... No, you're not an usher. Maybe you ought to get in the choir. They fight in the choir stand. There's some gangsters in the choir. Everybody talking about heaven ain't going there. If you don't have a heart and a passion for the lost, evangelism is not your ministry. But whatever you do it with all your heart. The word says, do it with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is a theological word. It's antheos, unto God. Do it unto God. Usher with such a smile and such a radiance that people will know that ushering is just as important as singing. Singing is just as important as parking cars. Parking cars is just as important as cleaning the restrooms. Cleaning the restrooms is just as important as teaching Sunday school. Teaching Sunday school is just as important as preaching the gospel, because all of it comes together to make the body of Christ a living, breathing organism that people can say, I was glad when they said unto me. Let us go to the house of the Lord. I'm trying to get through here now because my Texans are going to be playing here in a minute. And I'm with them. Long as they're winning. I'll always be with the winner. Treat those under your authority with kindness. That's your duty. But lastly, treat those who are in authority over you with respect. That's devotion. You are not devoted to the usher president. You are not devoted to the greeters ministry leader. You are not devoted to the chairman of deacons. You are not devoted to the leader in the choir. What you are doing is not for them. You're doing it for God. Because if they don't show up, that ain't got nothing to do with me. We could get twice as much done if we stop worrying about who got the credit for it. I don't care whose name is on the program as the president, or whose name is on the program as the superintendent, or whose name is on the program as the chairman. I'm just glad to be in the service. One more time. I'm just glad God lets me worship him in spirit and in truth. Because you know something? Getting back to my football analogy, some team members never get their suit dirty. Because they never get a chance to get in the game. But they get a check, just like the quarterback, or a ring at the Super Bowl, because they was on the team. Somebody gonna help me close here. I'm just thankful he let me be on the team, because I should have been dead. Have I got a witness? I've done enough to disqualify me. I have lied enough. I have sinned enough. I have transgressed enough that God could have put me on the injured list. But he looked beyond my faults. Have I got a believer here? And he saw my needs. You'd be surprised at the background of some people God uses. I'm through. He used Noah, who got drunk in front of his own son. You gonna help me preach this, won't you? He used Moses, who was a murderer. He used David, who took another man's wife to bed and had that same man killed. He used Solomon, who had 300 wives and 700 women on the side. He used Jacob, who stole his brother's blessing and tricked his brother out of his birthright. He used Abraham, who lied and said Sarah was his sister when she was in fact his wife. God used Rahab, who was a prostitute, but she hid some spies in her loft. You're gonna help me finish this, won't you? God can take nobody, make them somebody, and turn them around to save anybody. Look around in here this morning. Everybody here is an ex-something, an ex-drug addict, an ex-alcoholic. You're gonna help me preach this, won't you? Somebody here has had an abortion. Somebody here has been divorced. Somebody here has done enough to be in the penitentiary, or you are out of the penitentiary and God is still using you to speak his word. Is there anybody here not too dignified this morning, not too proud this morning, to tell somebody, look at me, I'm a testimony. I didn't make it on my own. I'm not standing here alone. It was Jesus who gave me this opportunity. And since I have this opportunity, I'm going to lift my hands in the sanctuary. Since I have this opportunity, I'm going to tell everybody I meet, he was born in Bethlehem, reared in Nazareth, baptized in the Jordan. Since I have this opportunity, I'm going to shout as loud as I can. He brought me from a mighty long way. Since I have this opportunity, I'm going to look behind me and see how many doors he's opened, how many prayers he's answered, how many ways he's made. And I'm going to tell God, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for all you've done for me. Thank you for the many ways you've made. If he brought you out, come on, help me testify. If he's been good to you, come on, help me talk about him. I know I say the same thing every Sunday, but I just like saying the same thing every Sunday. And you must like hearing me say the same thing every Sunday, because you come here every Sunday to hear me say the same thing every Sunday. He's Adam's redeemer. He's Abel's vindicator. He's Abraham's sacrifice. He's Noah's ark. He's Moses' bush on fire. He's Joshua's battle axe. He's Gideon's fleece. Y'all know him, don't you? He's Samson's power. He's David's music. He's Solomon's wisdom. He's Jeremiah's balm. He's Ezekiel's wheel. Y'all know him, don't you? He's a lily of the valley. He's a rose of Sharon. He's a bright and a morning star. He's a way out of no way. He's a friend when you're friendless, bread when you're hungry. He's water when you're thirsty. Y'all know him, don't you? He's Mary's baby boy. He's James and Jude's older brother. He's Matthew's king. He's Mark's suffering servant. He's Luke's great physician. He's John's word made flesh. He's Acts coming of the Holy Ghost. You might be saying, Reverend, how you remember all of that? Because I say it to myself every day. He died. Didn't he die? But early Sunday morning, he got up from the grave with all power in his hand. If you know he got up and you're not ashamed to testify, if you're serving him today and you don't care who's looking at you, if you're giving him glory this morning and you don't care what they say about you, if you're shouting right now because you know what God has done for you, why don't you go ahead right now, tell him thank you for your mercy, thank you for your forgiveness, thank you for your power, thank you, thank you. I know he's all right. He walks with me. He talks with me. He tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. Have you just been sitting down somewhere thinking about God's goodness and it's not even Sunday? You just start crying. You just start shouting, because if it had not been for the Lord who was on your side, why don't you grab somebody? Tell them, if it had not been Lord, tell somebody else, I don't look like what I've been through. I don't look like where I came from. He brought me. He kept me. He never left me. I know he's all right.
Well, he's standing where he's been standing these more than 2 decades, by the river of Kabar, by his mound mud hut. But on this day, things come rushing back to his memory. He remembered the day that the marauding army of Nebuchadnezzar had entered into the holy city and not only carted off God's choicest people, but destroyed the city, left it in rubble and ruin. And he remembered that day when he round the mound of the hill that would block his vision forever of seeing the holy city where he used to live. The temple where he served as a priest was all gone now. The brick walls are all shattered. And now he's in his new environment, devastated. But it's something about devastation that makes you recall the past. Where were you when John Kennedy was assassinated? Those of you who have lived, you know exactly where you were. Where were you when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated? Others of you remember exactly where you were. Where were you on 9/11? You remember, because there's something about devastation that arrests and awakens our memory. And that day, 25 years later, anniversary day, Ezekiel remembered that day when Nebuchadnezzar tore down the city. And then something happened, right in the middle of remembering that. Something happened. His vision gave way to a vision. His memory of dream gave way to something that appeared before him. And suddenly he saw Jerusalem clear once again. The walls were rebuilt. The temple had been resurrected. The ruin and the rubble had now been restored. The empty streets are filled with children. The marketplace where all of the women would work and where they would go and shop were running over with these human pedestrians. And then the fields where the men were all alive again. And in the middle of all of that, he saw a river. It was a river. He had been for 25 years in the country of Mesopotamia. And there's a river that runs through Mesopotamia, which is actually the twin where Mesopotamia gets its name from the running of the river. But this is Jerusalem. There's no river in Jerusalem. And yet he saw a river coming out of the mountains, rising in the temple, flowing over the desert, and going down to the Dead Sea. I'm through with the sermon. That's the whole sermon. That's what he saw. And you don't have to be a Rhodes scholar, a Old Testament scholar to pick up the imagery of what Ezekiel saw. Ezekiel saw a river, and he knew at that very moment that it was symbolic for us of the Holy Spirit. Alive and vibrant and active and energetic and dynamic. And so, like the church when it gathers in prayer, awaiting for a season of revival, God's Spirit moves in our heart and awakens us to His Spirit and His will. Here we need God's river to run through our dry places. step back with me for just a moment and look at the origin of the river, where it originates from, high up in the mountain, coming down, reminding us that God has the power to give new life where there is no life. So much of our lives are lived on one dimension, flat and stale so many times. And there are those who have come along, and thankfully, some of you work in those disciplines, who have come to make life a better place. We need more education, especially with what is happening in education in America. We need teachers who can get and tell the story of history the right way, without being pressured from doing it or being threatened from telling the story as it's supposed to be told. We need social and political sciences. We need fair and decent housing. We need fair wage. People need to be paid for what they have prepared themselves to do. We need that, and we need more than that, a lot more than that. But at the same time, to remember that though we need all of that, that's on the horizontal. We need it. I'm not downplaying it. God knows we need it. But if you believe that life is lived merely on the linear line, then you're going to be empty and depleted, and you're going to be mean, miserable, and mad, because life is more than just one dimension. You see, one-dimensional living stands you where you are in the present. And you look behind you to the past, and you look forward for a future. But if that's all life is for you, is past and where you are and where you're going, you're not living. You're existing, you are hanging around, but you're not really living. Living happens when the horizontal gives way to the vertical. When your flat line can get an upward glaze and began to look and say that my help comes from the Lord. That's when you start really living. And that's one of the reasons why we read this book. Because this book reminds us that if we're living on one level of life, one dimension, then all we're doing is just kind of casually meandering around. It tells us that people that live that way, they are blind. It says that people that live that way, that all they do is sleep and eat and work and sleep and eat and work. All they are is one-dimensional. They are not just blind, but they're living on 9/10 of the truth. You need more than that in life. This book reminds us that humanity is always trying to reach up to God. Every philosopher who has philosophized, every theorist of religion that has given us what they believe the science and the nature of religion is all on man to reach up, maybe to a God or gods. We're saying that there has to be something beyond myself that I'm reaching for. But if you know that, then you already know, if you've been to Sunday school, Bible study, there's something you've learned, even if you don't use the terminology, and that is the faith that we enjoy is not reaching up, it is God reaching down to us. It's what's called biblical revelation. It is God coming to us. Have you noticed in all of the stories in this book, it reminds us that God has come to us. When we have expended all of our energy, when we have exercised all of our muscularity, when we can no longer reach up, God says to people that are building towers, trying to reach up to the heaven, now that you have reached as far as you can go, let me come down to where you are. And he always does that to us. At the Red Sea, he comes in the wind. In the wilderness at night, by a pillar of fire. When it's hot in the day, a pillar of cloud. When we don't need water in the wasteland, he's water in dry places. He's always coming to where we are to remind us that your arms are too short to reach up to God. And so when Ezekiel saw that river flowing out of the mountain, it was symbolic that God is coming down to us. I don't need to stay there much longer, but that is the whole Christian faith, that God became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld the glory of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and of truth. God has come to us. The way that is interpreted in the Greek New Testament in that John 1:14 is that God has tabernacled among us. Eugene Peterson puts this way, that God camped out in our neighborhood. I like that. That God came to your address, lived in your house, your apartment. He stayed right there to remind you that you don't have to reach far for me. Call on me. I am near. That's what he says. God comes to us. And then his vision changed. He didn't just see the river coming down, because the river is not supposed to come out of the mountain. In fact, reverend scholars who look at this say that this is fantasy, that this makes no sense. It's geographically impossible for what he saw. But I guess Zeke just said, yeah, you can have that. I saw wheels in the middle of a wheel. I didn't debate about that. I'm not getting ready to debate about this. I didn't debate over geometry, and I'm not getting ready to debate over geology and geography. I'm not about to argue with that. And then he saw the river rising in the temple. And that gave him the image that not only does God come down to us in power to bring meaning to life, but that God comes to us in the place where his purpose can be fulfilled, and that is in his temple. That in the temple, this would be the place where they would hear the Psalms. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of the Lord. These are not just verses that we throw around, by the way. These words shape who we are and what we believe and why we believe in what we believe. And it's in the temple where they would sing the hymns and pray the prayers and offer their gifts, where God is on the straight line of purpose to humanity, that people find meaning and purpose when they come into a place like this. This is just Ralph West talking now. I love the church. I've given all of my life to the church. And I'll give all of it until it ends to the church, because I love the church. I love the church because the Lord built the church. I mean, I'm not talking about no building now. I'm talking about the church. And if you can't shout about that, I'm going to say the door of the church is open right now. The body of Christ, the bride of Christ, God's sheep in his pasture. I love the church. And when the disciples have been empowered, they were given a mandate to go into the world and proclaim a message. And in that message, the mission of the church was that we would go out and make disciples. We've discovered the need of disciple making, but that's another sermon. Let me keep on going. And so there you discover one thing about these disciples in that upper room in the church, and the power that's rising in that room, is that they didn't come with good advice. They came with the gospel. They came with the message of Christ. They came with that, and they did it through the life of the church, because in that church, life can be found. This is a river growing in the desert. And there in the church, when things are in inferno morally and ethically in our culture and country, thank God for the river that flows in the church. There are people who are in the conflagrated flames, burning, and they're crying out, and they find that refreshment in the church. Sometimes some of us, we've been around church so long, we take for granted, but there's nothing like new believers in Jesus Christ who have come out of the wilderness and they have found streams in the desert. That's what the church is. And it's where we find meaning, and it's where we find purpose. Theodore Roosevelt was 55 years old. He had already been the president of the United States of America. But he still had more land that he wanted to conquer. And so he and Kermit, his son, took a trip over to South America. And in Brazil, they wanted to go and discover what was called the River of No Return. And they got into that with a group of people, and they were looking for it. And they wanted to go because they didn't know where it started, and they didn't know where it ended. And it was on that river that Roosevelt would be injured to the point that they wanted to turn him back, but he said, I'd rather just die right here. They fought cataracts, they fought piranha, they fought the natives right there. In fact, that river today that had no name then is named after Teddy Roosevelt. When you go there, they'll tell you that's Roosevelt's river. It started off as a river of defeat, but when he left, it became the river of victory. That's what happens when you come to the church. You bring your defeats here, but when you leave, God gives you the victories. That's why I love the church, because there's victory in this room. You've been praying for the last month, I know, and I hope that you prayed enough where you said, wait a minute, don't let Wes have to work too hard preaching tonight. We've been praying that somebody would remind us that God is hearing our prayer and answering our prayers. I'm almost done now. But then his vision gave way again. And this time, the river broke out of the door across the desert in a place where there's not supposed to be a river. And the angel took Ezekiel by his hand to say, we got to go see this. We got to go outside and we need to look at what's happening in the desert. And so he escorts him out the north gate because the east gate is closed. And so they got to walk out the north gate and then walk around. And while they're walking, an angel is in front, and he walks out. And he walks out a few hundred feet, and they follow him. And the river is ankle deep. That's a good place. It's safe at the ankle. And that's far enough, that's deep enough. We don't need to go any further than that. And then the angel turned and walked another several hundred feet. And when he stopped, we followed. And this time, when we got there, it was knee deep. It's getting deep up in here. And then the angel turned again and started walking another several hundred feet. And they came and said, my goodness. But this time when they stopped, they said, wait a minute, wade in the water. God's going to trouble the water with. And once you get up to the waist, you know, those of you that swim, you know that's enough water to do any swimming that you need to do if you're a swimmer. And that'll be far enough, but the angel kept going and beckoned them to come on. And this time, they walked and walked, and then they're on their toes, and now they're wading because the water is at their waist and chin, and it's too deep to cross. You got to swim in the water now. We are enveloped by the power of God that has gone out over into a dead and dry place. And God's going to bring things to bear. He's going to see it's getting deep out there in the desert, and we're swimming in the water. I know what some of you are saying. You're saying, but Pastor West, I ain't that deep. But tonight you can get that deep. You don't have to stay on the banks. You can start like Ezekiel did. And the way that you do that is tonight you begin to remember the first time you stepped in the river of God's relationship. You remember when you stepped in it. It was the day you came down the aisle. And it was the day that you gave your heart to God and your hand to the preacher. And then you were baptized. And then you sat down for your first communion. And you were there and you were ankle deep. And you got some of you in the beginner's class and the intermediate class and some in the young adult class. And you remember you were just ankle deep. But the longer you stayed there, the deeper the relationship got. One day, you didn't need somebody to read for you. You could read yourself. You were ankle deep by that time. And then you found yourself telling people about what the Lord had done for you. You were up to your waist. And the next thing you know, there you are teaching a class, singing in the choir, preaching in the pulpit, serving as a deacon, because now you're up to your chest and now you're up to your chin. And then you say, I remember those days. But now it looks like I'm at the beginning place again. You don't have to stay on the bank. You don't just remember, start returning. And the way you return is you go back to Bethlehem, go back to that crib, go back to Jesus teaching on the Sermon on the Mount, go back to Jesus hanging on the cross, go back to the empty tomb, go back with Jesus getting up on Sunday morning, go back to Mary Magdalene leaning and kneeling on her knees, go back to the woman who had an issue of blood and you reach for the garment of God, go back to where God has kept and brought you, go back, go back. Go back. And life can get deep and meaningful in your relationship with Him. Go back to Him. Oh, He's waiting tonight. And that's what our prayer is over these next 3 weeks, is that God would bring us words of not just good sermons, but word that will really revive us, challenge the church, and set His world free again. I'm almost done. But I got to take you one more step and I'm through. Because the river doesn't just go into the desert. That would have been good enough. But everybody knew about the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is the Dead Sea. Everything in, nothing comes out. Those of you who have been to the Holy Land, don't have to have any buoyancy. You just sit in the Dead Sea. And you just float. You cannot drown yourself in the Dead Sea. You just makes you rise because of all of the salt. But because of the salt, no life can exist in that water. And then look what happens. The river flows and the fish come alive. These people didn't have to know anything about marine biology. They knew that nothing lives in the Dead Sea. And the angel said, now let me tell you what's getting ready to happen. You see all them dead barks over there? Those trees with no leaves. And you see where there's no life and no vegetation. You see where that is? I'm getting ready to tell you, when the river touches it, everything that's dead is going to come back to life. That's resurrection. That's why we don't have to wait for Easter to shout. We are resurrection people because we know what it means for God's living river to come where we are and everything comes to life. We know what that means. that little flower, that ugly, desiccated southwestern flower. They call it the resurrection plant. It is an ugly little plant. And they sell them just for a little of nothing. They sit them in the windows. And when you get it, the instruction is simply this: apply water. That's all. And when you get it, you apply water, and that dry, thirsty plant immediately comes to life. It becomes the resurrection plant. Now, if God can do that with a dead, dry, desiccated plant, what more can God do with you, who is his body, soul, and spirit, who has his imprimatur upon your life? When we are touched by him, we come alive. And everything that touches that river, have a good night, comes alive. There's nothing but life in that river. That river brings life. That's why you're here tonight. You're here because you say, I want to be alive. I am alive, but I want to live some more. There's more in me. I want to come alive. Ezekiel didn't know it, but he was looking hundreds of years into the future, because that was another river. But this river wasn't flowing through the desert. This river was born in Bethlehem. This river was not snaking its way through the wilderness. This river was standing up in the Jordan. It was this river in John 7 that said, are you thirsty? I got some water, and I'll never let you thirst again. Drink of me. I'm the living water. I'm the water that's hooked up to the river. The river is because I am. I got to leave you now. My soul is getting happy. And people have been drinking from that river. Yes, they have. They've been drinking, and you and I drink from that river because of so many people that have drank from that river. Jesus is the river. The apostles laid the foundation of the church, and by doing that, they drank from that river. And they thought that they had drank all the river up, and only to discover, wait, there's a whole lot more. We haven't even touched the surface of the river. And then people started coming along, and they started drinking from that water. In the 2nd century, people came along like Justin and Irenaeus and the other martyrs, and they drank from that water. And they thought that their thirst had been slaked, that they had drank all the water, but they discovered, wait, there's a whole lot of water left. And so then by the 3rd century, other people came along like Origen and Chrysostom, and they wrote their commentaries, and they exhausted their pens and laid it down and said, we've drank all the water. But before they closed their eyes and folded up their tent, they say, wait a minute, the river is still full. And then people like Augustine in the 4th century, he came along and he drank with his confessions, and he reminded us that God has made you for himself. And you cannot rest until you rest in him. And that was a lot of water we thought was gone. But when he left, that man from Carthage in North Africa discovered there's still a whole lot more river left for us to wade into. And then those years came along of the dark ages when things looked so dark and bleak, and they were chaining the Bible to the pulpit so that people wouldn't run off with it. That river kept on flowing, and people kept on drinking, and people kept on getting filled. And when they thought that all the river was gone, there was still some more water left. And then the 12th, 13th, 14th century came along, and you had people like John Wycliffe, and you had John Hus that come along, and they started drinking, but there was still water left. And then after them, you had people like Erasmus, and then you had Luther, and Luther gave the cup to Zwingli, and Zwingli gave the cup to Calvin, and they drank, and they said, we still got water here. That river has not been touched yet. And they kept on drinking, and then you had the separatists to come along, the Puritans to come along. Cromwell came along, and there was still some river to be walked through. There was still rivers to wade in. There was still water left. It wasn't down to the ankle. They were swimming in that water. And then you had great awakenings, but then you fast forward to now and remember where you come from. I miss some time when we would spend in church and people would say, do you remember your day? That was the day when people would go around and they would say, do you remember your day? And they would say some found him on a Monday, but then we could say it this way, some drank from the fountain on a Tuesday. Some waded in the water on a Wednesday. You get the idea. And guess you know what the answer is. When you got through wading in the water, there's still a lot of river left. We got to remind our generation that God who saved 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago is the same God that can save right now. Have a good night now, children. May God bless you real good. But look at those rivers flowing way back in Genesis. The 4 river heads in the garden. And then when man fell, something happened. But thank God that's not the end of the river. There's a river that's flowing through in the New Jerusalem. And in that river, God says that river is good for the healing of the nation. I'm trying to leave you here, but let me just say it this way. Come to that fountain, so rich and sweet. Have a good night now, y'all. Come to that fountain.